Good morning. I'm the Reverend Jennifer Brower, and on behalf of the ministry team here at the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock, the Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore and the Reverend Jay Brooks, and our worship associate, Sandra Frank, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our service this morning. How very good it is to be together in person and with those who are joining us from a distance from home. As people of the Unitarian Universalist tradition, we celebrate the spirit of life that dwells within each person. We honor the diversity of theological and philosophical belief brought together in our gathering, and we affirm the use of reason and direct experience in our search for religious truth and meaning. Today is our monthly in-person service. Our next will be August 8th, when we'll have a soulful Sunday morning with the Cosmic Orchestra. So we'll have dancing on the lawn that day, though you are free to dance today if the Spirit so moves. Okie dokie? You seem so far away, all of you. I wish you were closer. And now, friends, as we prepare for our hymn, settling into this time together, digitally and in person, I give thanks for the gifts of our musicians, Kristen Kemp and Michael St. Peter. Thank you both for being with us in person today. We're delighted to see you and have your gifts and talents enriching our service. Michael is going to help us with our hymn, which is one that should be familiar and pretty easy to many of you who've been to our services. You're free to rise as you're comfortable. It is always easier to stand sing while standing, but if that is not possible, then you just stay wherever you are, in your chair or on the lawn or on your couch, whatever it may be. We're going to be singing hymn 1010, We Give Thanks. How would you want to do this? Do you want to start and we'll follow your lead?
Kristen's going to go ahead and give us a little intro.
You do that. I'm moving away from the microphone because you don't want to hear me singing. You may be seated or you may stand there and wave to each other. We would normally greet one another at this point in the service, but we are giving each other a little bit of space. So we wave to you who are at home, whichever camera I'm supposed to be looking at, and we give thanks for the presence of those who are here with us in body. It is a gift to be together this day. We give thanks for this precious day and those who are gathered here and far away. For the time that we share, it is a gift. You may be seated. We begin our services with a chalice lighting, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Sandra and I will share with you our chalice lighting words, which are an adaptation of the words of the Reverend Carol Meyer. Here in the Cathedral of the Great Outdoors and connected through our electronic devices, we are gathered together, people of different ages and life stages.
We come together in hope.
We greet each other warmly with our voices, our smiles, and our waves.
We come together in peace.
We acknowledge our interdependence and our unity.
We come together in harmony.
We share our growth and our aspirations.
We come together in wonder.
We share our losses and our disappointments.
We come together in sorrow.
We share our concern and our compassion.
We come together in love.
We come to this place bringing our doubts and our faith.
We come together as seekers.
For all of these reasons and more,
We come together in worship.
we'll kindle the flame of our chalice and see how long it goes in what may be a breezy morning under this tent. If it goes out, it's not a sign. Would you want to invite folks to do the words of affirmation?
Yes, I'd like all of you to join with me in the words of affirmation as you remember them. So love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest of truth is the sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to
This
do
do we affirm
and covenant with each other.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of faith and hope arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung through every land, by every tongue.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you very much. Sandra, this is you.
Today's offering goes to Adventures in Learning, a Manhasset program which provides an environment that nurtures the minds, bodies, and souls of children from the formative years of early childhood through the impressionable years of pre-adolescence. Their activities focus on values of caring, honesty, respect, and responsibility. Adventures in Learning serves the children of low-wealth families, many of mixed or no immigration status, who have not been helped by any of the government's COVID relief packages. In response to the current crisis amplified by this pandemic, the program uses donations like yours to help these families with grocery store gift cards, rent payments, and cards for transportation. Between 70 and 100 families are served through this fund.
Go ahead, Kristen. When I was a kid, my brother David liked to watch Evel Knievel. And what my older brother did, I did too. He's 7 years older than I am, David, and we are far enough apart in age to really like each other very much. We also look alike, so we are very bonded, David and I. And Evel Knievel was a thrill to watch. He was a daredevil like no other. In fact, a friend sent me a video of Evel Knievel knowing about today's service, and I had to say, it was really exhilarating to watch. Evel Knievel was good looking, flashy in that white jumpsuit and cape. He jumped cars and canyons and through hoops of fire. He still holds the record for jumping the most number of buses on a motorcycle. He jumped 14. Really, who even thinks to do that, right? Like, where did you get the idea, like, I think I'm going to jump a bus with this motorcycle? Neither here nor there. He did it. We all watched it. And if it wasn't abundantly clear by that stunt, the man was completely unhinged. Completely. But he was an amazing showman and self-promoter, and boy, did he know how to draw a crowd. He often said that kids wanted to be like him, men wanted to be him, and women wanted to be with him. He was quite the colorful narcissist. But there is another Evel Knievel quote that, when I heard it, made me feel a certain affinity for the risk-taking, body-busting braggart of a showman that he was. When asked why he repeatedly took his life into his hands doing the terrifying and often unsuccessful jumps on his motorcycle or in a car, but particularly on a motorcycle, he said, I love the feeling of fresh air on my face and the wind blowing through my hair. I love the feeling of the wind on my face and blowing through my hair. That is a totally crazy reason to do the things he did. That is just nuts. And it makes perfect sense. Now, to my knowledge, none of us here have ever taken the risks that Evel Knievel took, but lots of us here share the need to feel the fresh air on our face and the wind blowing through our hair or over our scalp, depending on who we are. I love to drive with the car windows open. Even in the hottest part of the summer and the coldest part of the winter, I love the feeling of the wind whipping through the car. And it's one of the reasons I have to admit that I've worn my hair really short until recently. It is hard to have all this hair and drive with the top down or the windows open. It makes a mess and very dangerous to drive. So it's not a good idea. But I love that feeling. And one of my all-time favorite songs, Windfall, describes driving down the road with the wind taking away your worries and your woes, your failures and your shames. That song tells of the feeling of being freed from all that heavy stuff that weighs you down in order to make space and way for new experiences. The wind takes your troubles away. That works for me. And although I am not about to jump 14 buses on a motorcycle, I get what Evel Knievel was saying. There is nothing like that feeling of fresh air on your face and the wind through your hair. When I was a kid, I would go out of my way to walk past a huge brick high-rise on Madison Avenue between 89th and 90th, just a few blocks away from where I grew up. The building takes up the whole block on Madison. It's on the east side of the street. It's modern, and to be honest, it is really ugly. It is an ugly building. But no matter how still the air or how calm the weather, this one block, because of the architecture, because of the height of the building, because of the height of the other buildings, there is always a wind tunnel running past it on the front side on Madison Avenue. And sometimes the wind, especially during a storm, this is a great place to go during a storm, something I'm sure my parents would have been thrilled about. During a storm, though, you could stand in front of that building and the wind would blow so strong that you could hold out your arms and just lean into the wind and be held upright by it. I bet some of you have had that experience, too, when you were a kid. It's a whole lot harder to do as an adult. It's easier when we're smaller and there's less of us. But it is something that many of us I know have experienced, and I loved it. I remember how it felt, and maybe you do too. It was wonderful, the power of the wind. It was just beyond one's ability to control. It was mighty and marvelous and completely invisible. It was big and scary and compelling all at the same time. In fact, that feeling, the fresh air on your face, the wind blowing through your hair, the air so strong it pushes against you, that is so compelling that there is a segment, a huge segment of the recreational and leisure market devoted to it. Think about every amusement park you've ever been in, every ride you've ever been on. How many people have on their bucket list the desire to go skydiving? And the newer indoor skydiving, which is a spectacular experience of being suspended mid-air by a huge and mighty fan blowing 130 miles an hour. And I can tell you it's marvelous. I've done it twice. And even crashing once, it was still fabulous, and I would do it again. Check it out if you can. And our wind is picking up. And there is a medical application for breeze as well. Have you had an MRI? It became clear when I had an MRI that the only thing that was going to keep me from going totally postal in that machine was the forced air on my face. As long as I could feel the wind blowing on my face, I could keep my eyes closed tight and hold it together long enough for the images to be created as the thing pounded around me. Maybe you know just what I mean. Sandra said yes behind me. I have learned that I feel grounded and safe when I can feel the wind blowing. I feel grounded and alive when I can feel the wind blowing. And I know that some of you do too. Members of our congregation and friends of mine have spoken about their sailing and surfing and skiing and their stunt kite flying and the glory of standing on a mountaintop. And I have been thinking that maybe something all people have in common as part of their being human is this desire to feel the wind on their face and blowing through their hair. It is something that is tied deeply to us, a primal experience. When I was preparing for Nathaniel's birth so many, many years ago now, he is 16 now, I remember reading that one should hold in mind how everything a newborn experiences is entirely new. That newborns are on complete stimulation overload when they arrive into this world. And that the very first experience, one of the very first experiences that this author mentioned was the feeling of air moving over the newborn's skin. Imagine being able to remember the first time you felt the air moving over your skin. What might that have been like? The movement of the air around us and into us through our first breath are our first sensations. How cool is that? The feeling of air, the wind, and our breath are our first experiences of life. In the Hebrew Bible, the wind is often mentioned as a sacred element. In the first chapter of Genesis, in the first story of creation, in describing the birth of the world, the story goes like this. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was without form or shape, with darkness over the abyss. And a mighty wind sweeping over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Now we know those words about light, they're well known. But we have the mighty wind first. We have the mighty wind, which in Hebrew is the Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of the Most High. A mighty wind, the Spirit of the Most High, the force of creation, moves across the face of the deep and over the waters. The wind is there at the very beginning, at the birth of the world. It is there before the light, before the dome of the sky and the stars, before land, before plants, before people. The wind. I hope our folks at home have their windows open or are standing near a fan, because we can feel the breeze blowing through us here in this space. Many, many years ago, I read a story that described how when a person dies, nature would respond to this shift in the force of life by kicking up wind and creating rain and thunder and lightning, that there would be a mighty storm. Now I have been with lots of folks who died on sunny days and dry days and still days. So I know it doesn't actually happen that way, but it is poetic. And when a loved one dies, when we've been through a traumatic experience, it feels like all of those things should happen. It feels like the whole mighty universe should rock and roll and cry out with us, that the wind should whip up and howl and swirl around us. Nature should respond and grieve with us when part of creation, human or otherwise, dies. When the last member of my late mother's family died a few years ago, my heart just positively broke. My whole life I knew this day would come. Like someday your parents are going to die. But when the day came, it was big and it was heavy, and I heard the mournful strains of a Joseph Spence song, Blow, Wind, Blow. Maybe some of you know it, playing through my mind. The invisible primary force of life was moving. A gale force wind was blowing in my heart, even if not around my neighborhood. The mighty wind was present in my soul. And the wind can take our troubles away. It can be with us in our sorrow and remind us of the gift of life. Would you say anything else?
By blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. The air that is my breath is the air that you are breathing, and the air that is your breath is the air that I am breathing. The wind rising in my breast is the wind from the east, from the west, from the north, from the south, breathing in, breathing out. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. The water that is my blood, my sweat, tears from crying, is the water that is your blood, your sweat, tears from crying, and the rising of the tide is in our veins and in the oceans wide. We are in the rising steam, rushing river, running stream. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. The earth is dust, the earth is clay, flowers blossoming and fading. We are dust and we are clay. We are blossoming and fading. Every color, every sound, every place here is holy ground. Oh, every living thing, can you hear it laugh? Can you hear it sing? By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. The fire in my heart, my soul flame burning, is the fire in your heart, your soul flame burning. We are spirit burning bright by the light of day. In the dark of night we are shining like the sun and like the moon. Yes, we are one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. Oh, by breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one.
Thank you so much, Michael. That was beautiful. The wind that moves over the waters in the book of Genesis is, as I said, the Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of God, the Spirit of the Most High. The same word, Ruach, is later used in the book of Genesis to describe the animating force that is breathed into the human being by the Creator. Then the Most High formed the human of dust and from the ground. And the Most High breathed into the human's nostrils the Ruach, the breath of life, and the human became a living creature. The breath of life, the Ruach, which is in Greek translated to the word pneuma, and in Latin is the word spiritus, the breath of life, the Ruach, the pneuma, the spiritus is the animating force that brings us into being. And this word appears hundreds of times throughout the Hebrew and Christian Bibles. And like the Hebrew Ruach and the Greek pneuma and the Latin spiritus, in Taoist philosophy and healing, all forms of life are animated by the essential life force, the chi. Chi, like the other words, means breath and air. And just as the Ruach and the pneuma and the spiritus are described, the chi is the energy within all living beings. It is invisible and silent and formless, yet it permeates all living creatures. As author Daniel Reed states, chi is to the living what electricity is to the computer. Without it, all functions grind to a halt. So communicated through different words and different languages and found in different religions and philosophies, there is the animating wind, the breath of life, the vital force at our core. Indeed, so universal are the references to the breath of life and the spirit that some say it is this spiritual center that defines who we are, that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but spiritual beings having a human experience. Now, what I think is really important to note is that no matter what our faith or philosophy or theology, free from any form of scriptural literalism, we are able to explore these ideas and ancient texts and stories in order that our knowledge and our creativity and our imagination might be expanded and enhanced. As some of you may recall from your religious upbringing, in the Hebrew Bible, there's the story of the burning bush, and Moses is speaking to the bush, and he has the nerve to ask the name of his God. Nervy guy he was. And the Most High answers, "I am who I am." When written down, the name of the Holy given to Moses is recorded as YHWH or YHVH, which is called the sacred tetragrammaton, meaning the sacred 4 letters. As you may also know, the original Hebrew text had no vowels, so the sacred grammaton, tetragrammaton, YHVH, is considered literally unspeakable. Any attempt to speak the sacred tetragrammaton would be fruitless, or some might say, in vain. Now, the unspeakability of the sacred tetragrammaton has long been recognized, but some religious thinkers believe that this was intentional, that the holy, that the spirit, that the pneuma, that the ruach cannot be named, that whatever that thing is that we call God can't be put into words. Many are convinced that the correct pronunciation is not actually a word, but the very sound of inhalation and exhalation. Scholars have noted that the words, that the letters YHVH represent breathing sounds, aspirated consonants that in the Hebrew alphabet would be transliterated this way. Yod, rhyming with road, which we transliterate as a Y. Hey, which rhymes with say, which we transliterate as H. V, or va, as in lava, which we transliterate as V or W. And hey again, rhyming with say, which we transliterate as H. So they are the sounds of breathing. The exhalation, yod. The inhalation, the exhalation, and the inhalation. I invite you to try it, and I invite Michael to join me in this. It is the exhalation of yod, yod, and the inhalation of hey, and the exhalation of va, and the inhalation of hey. Yod. One contemporary Christian songwriter has written, "For too long, for far too long, there have been those who have insisted that the name of God is so very holy that we dare not speak it because of how unworthy we human beings are. Instead, all of us, always, everywhere, waking and sleeping, from the moment we are born until our final exhalation, are speaking the name of the Holy. The Most High, the Holy of Holies, is the very sound of our breathing." I invite you to join with me in a time of meditation, to take a deep breath, to let it out, to think of the yod, hey, va, hey, to feel the breeze blowing here, which has kicked up nicely. Years ago, a member of this congregation mentioned to me the title of a book she was reading, When Breath Becomes Air. When breath becomes air, when that breath which is life-giving ceases to animate and support life, when it becomes the air that others breathe, when the name of the holy is no longer on our lips, when breath becomes air is powerful and poetic. That thought stays with me. Let us breathe deeply, the breath that is life-giving. Let us feel that breath coursing through us as we breathe deeply in and slowly out. No matter what is happening in our life, and our lives are full of all kinds of difficult things, I know, and joyful things too, but the difficult ones weigh us down. Whatever is happening, let us appreciate the true marvel of being animated, of being alive. Let us be restored and rejuvenated and reanimated every time we breathe in. Let us feel that breath filling our sinuses and our chest and coursing down through our trunk and our limbs, out to our toes and our fingertips. Today and in the days ahead, let us be aware of our breathing and thankful for the gift of life. May the breath remind us of all that we are, all that we can do. And may the wind that blows over the face of the water, over the face of the earth, blow over us too and carry away what we no longer need. For these hopes and prayers and meditations, and for those that are held in the silent sanctuary of your heart, I say, so may it be, and amen. The wind has taken care of extinguishing our chalice for us, so we give thanks for this time spent together. In the coming days, may we feel held by the Spirit of life, and through that breath, through the pneuma, through the spiritus, through the chi, may we feel connected to all living things. So may it be. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all for being here today with us and at home.